Hey, good morning again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the 2020 Tobacco Control Conference webinar series. We are here today getting ready to hear from Cathy Williams from Casey County ASAP and Casey County Schools, as well as a couple of guests that she has with her this morning. My name is Ellen Cartmell, and I will be your moderator today. We appreciate everyone being with us in these unique times. As many of you all know, we had hoped to have Cathy present in our in-person annual conference this past spring. Obviously, it was not possible for us to meet in person, so we are doing this wonderful webinar series, and we appreciate everyone being with us. As a reminder, everyone is muted at this time, and the call is being recorded for anyone who can't be with us here today. If you have questions throughout the presentations, please feel free to drop those in the question box, and I will moderate and ask those of Cathy and her guests. As we move forward, the first thing I would like to do is thank our wonderful sponsors who have made this event happen. This wouldn't be possible without Kentucky Health Collaborative, UK Healthcare, Interact for Health, CHI St. Joseph Health, Appalachian Regional Health, and Kentucky Voices for Health. And of course, that's in addition to our wonderful partners at the Kentucky Center for Smoke-Free Policy. And I work for the Kentucky Department for Public Health's Tobacco Prevention and Cessation program. So speaking of those groups, feel free to tweet at us throughout this event or talk to us on Facebook as well. You can use these two hashtags, hashtag #ICanEndTheTrend and hashtag KY Tobacco Free, which is our hashtag specifically for this conference. You can also tweet at us at the Kentucky Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Program at KY Tobacco Free, or at the Kentucky Center for Smoke-Free Policy at KY Smoke Free. So we look forward to hearing your all's thoughts on the presentation throughout. One more housekeeping item is that, as with the previous webinars, we are going to have an evaluation at the end. So after the presentation is over, you will have an opportunity to click a link and tell us your thoughts on what you've heard here today and what we can do better for future webinars. And by doing that, you will be entered to win a free copy of The Cigarette, A Political History. We will be giving out 7 copies of that book. So all you have to do is click the evaluation at the end of the presentation, and it should appear in the chat box for you. And we will announce the winners of that book at the end of the webinar. So don't jump off, hang on, and we will let you know who the winners are at the end of today's program. So now to introduce our guest speakers for today, we have Cathy Williams, who is the Drug-Free Communities Coordinator for Casey County ASAP and Casey County Schools. She has been in that role for about 5 years. She formed Casey County's first youth coalition in 2015. Last year, she was a recipient of the Kentucky Prevention Network's Prevention Specialist of the Year Award. And her work really focuses on substance use prevention with youth and adults and making sustainable community change through coalition work. We are thrilled that Cathy is able to be with us and that she has brought some guests, specifically from the Casey Youth Coalition. So we will have Nikki Webbington, who is the advisor of that group, and then we're really extra excited to have 2 students with us today, Sadie Edwards and Cara Kane, who are members of that coalition and will talk to us about how we can engage youth in tobacco control work, and also sustain their engagement and really allow them to be leaders in that. So at this point, I will turn it over to Cathy. I will remind everyone else that you are muted, but please ask those wonderful questions I'm sure that you have through the question box, and I will pose them to the group after the presentation is over. I'm going to turn it over to you now, Cathy.
Good morning. Let's see.
Morning.
Good morning. Are we there? Can you see me? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. My name is Cathy Williams, and I am the DFC ASAP coordinator in Casey County. And welcome to Casey County. It's nice and cool this morning. Fall is in the air, and we're excited to be able to share about our youth coalition. And just to get right to it, let me see if I can move this little, hold on just a second. There we go. Okay. Basically, I wanted to talk about the history of Casey County Youth Coalition and how we got started. In 2014, we were working, Casey County ASAP, Lake Cumberland District Health Department, health educator, several of us on the ASAP board were trying to work with the Casey County government, the county and the city, to have a smoke-free ordinance in place. Well, the city passed one, and 1 month later, they rescinded it. So that tells you right there what we were up against. And so we were working through the school system at the same time. And in November of 2014, the Board of Education passed 100% tobacco-free schools. So at the same time, we had applied for our DFC grant. We got it in the fall of that year. The Board of Education passed the 100% tobacco-free campus that was not going to go into place until July 1st, 2015, and the city rescinded their smoke-free ordinance. So we were trying to figure out how to go forward with this. We were shut down by the city, and then we got the bright idea, hey, let's let the youth do this for us. So in our DFC grant, we had a goal of beginning a youth coalition. So we began, we started with 15 students that were teacher referred. And the reason I say teacher referred is because that was how we got started. But today and after that, we let the students recruit members. We don't recruit them ourselves, and they're not teacher referred. It is up to the students to recruit them. And we had a volunteer advisor. And the reason I say volunteer advisor is because if you don't have money to pay a youth advisor, get someone in the school system that would love to work with youth to do this. So we purchased it was a toolkit basically on youth empowerment, and it was by Youth to Youth, and I loved it because it was part of it was part of a coalition, a youth coalition that had gone through 10 years of DFC grant, and they took everything they did and they put it in a book. And you can buy it today if you want to. I think it's like maybe $400 or $500. But we were fortunate enough to have the funding to get that. And it gave us step-by-step how to do this, how to do that, how to organize your monthly meetings. It even gave us agendas for monthly meetings. It gave us everything. And we used it in the beginning. But after that, we kind of adapted it the way we wanted to. But it gave us structure and it gave us a beginning point. After we got started and we had the students, we started with a focus group. And we started talking to the youth in our CYC about tobacco use on campus. We wanted to hear what they had to say about it, not what we wanted to do, but what they wanted and what they saw as problems. Our tobacco topic was very, very controversial at that time. I think one of my biggest fears was that somebody in the community was going to really lambaste the kids for taking this on, because tobacco was something that built homes for people. It paid for college degrees. It paid their taxes. It, the whole community has been very loyal to tobacco. Not so much today, but at that time, yes, it was a very controversial issue. So what we did, as the students began to talk, we listened to them and we made a list, as you would do in a focus group, of what they saw as the issue with youth and tobacco. We trained them after that on the risk and harm of tobacco use. It didn't cost us any money because we used, let's see, who did we use? We used Lake Cumberland District Health Department health educator, Delane Harlow. We used, as we progressed, we used the Kentucky ambassadors to do training, because we do training every year. But the youth, after learning about harms and risk of tobacco use, they identified hotspots where students use tobacco. One of the places that they used was in an area, and it was just littered. It was an area of the school, and it was just littered with tobacco, empty tobacco packages, trash, empty, used dip cans, those kind of things. And when the youth began to talk about these hotspots, the school system, who was very pro youth coalition, they decided to put a window there. And it was right outside a classroom or a small office. So they put a window in so a teacher could observe that. And guess what? The hotspot went away. So we knew we were on the right track because we had the support of the school system there. From 2015 to 2020, the CYC implemented and changed school policy. You can pass a 100% tobacco-free campus policy, but that doesn't mean that you are going to have a 100% tobacco-free campus. It's just, it doesn't work that way. And what the youth set out to do was to implement that policy. And they changed policy some too, and we'll talk a little bit about that. One of the tools they used, we trained them and they developed and marketed a Photovoice project, and I'll show you a few of those slides later on. But the project was called Continued Tobacco Use on Our 100% Tobacco-Free Campus. And I could stop there and tell you to sign in to YouTube and look up the video. It was a PSA, a 30-minute PSA. And it is labeled Continued Tobacco Use on Our 100% Tobacco-Free Campus, or you can do a search for Casey Youth Coalition. And that is one of the best teaching tools. We created it as a teaching tool so that other youth coalitions could look at what we were up against and how we progressed and things we did to kick off our youth coalition and some of the successes they had. So that's one thing I would suggest that you do after this video is look at that video. And if you want to use it as a training tool, please do so. The youth went on to develop signage inside the school. They developed window screens, which the school system needed, had some safety issues, and they had a lot of windows, so we covered them for them with window screens which said 100% tobacco-free campus, and it had our mascot, our logo, Rowdy, on them, and it had the CYC logo on there. And we put signage up outside the school, and especially our sports events, because the adults were continuing to use tobacco on our tobacco-free campus, and that was one of our biggest hurdles to get through. They did their first billboard during that time, and the billboard was called "It's the Smoke, Not the Smoker." And that came about because of the controversial issues with tobacco in our community, because the youth didn't want to get into, you know, disagreements with adults, especially some of their parents who grew tobacco. So their campaign was geared toward, we're dealing with smoke, not the smoker. Okay. And that really, really, really made an impact on the community. They you know, we talked about what are you guys going to do for those people that want to quit? Well, what are you going to do for cessation? So in the beginning, they started working with the school nurse to provide support for students for cessation. Any student, they put signage up and everything, and any student could go to the school nurse. They also provided cinnamon candies and peppermint candies in the nurse's station if you were trying to quit and you wanted to come, you know, to the nurse's station talk, and she would give you some of the candies to help you make it through the day. There were a lot of good things and different angles that the students implemented. The first offense for tobacco use, this was a policy change. The youth wanted to implement something rather than them just being, you know, sent to in-house suspension. So while they were in in-house suspension, they implemented the tobacco prevention class from Aspire. So that, and that's still in place. They have the option to look at other curriculum and change if we want to, but right now that's working for them. They created and marketed 5 video PSAs geared at various audiences, some to parents, some to students, and those play right now on Facebook, and they have a Facebook page. And they also play at Lights of Liberty, and we use them in different settings. That, I guess, by 2018, they had won 3 awards at the state level, and they got national recognition for a lot of their work with tobacco-free campus. Okay, let's see if we can. Excuse me while I figure this one out. Well, my screen's not wanting to change. Let's see.
Cathy, if you use the arrows on your keyboard, that might work.
Nothing's working right this second. I don't have control right this second. There it goes. There it goes. Okay. Okay, I'm there. Thank you. Sorry about that. School buy-in. I've had a lot of different coalitions ask me, how do you get school buy-in? How do you get to that, you know, the school to let you have access to students? And I've always had this little saying in the back of my mind that said, if you want to attract dogs, you have to tie a bone around your neck. So I was trying to figure out what the bone was and how we get into the school systems. Well, since the board had passed the 100% tobacco-free campus and it needed to be implemented, and the school did not have anybody to basically implement it for them, I asked the superintendent, let us take on the implementation of that policy for you and involve students in the process. Well, that was like a piece of heaven for the school system. They jumped at the chance and said, what do you need? What do you want to do? And at that time, there were not very many school systems that were 100% tobacco free. So we had a new superintendent. He was just like a year into the job. So we started working from the top down. I went through the superintendent, then we went through the principal, had conversations with him. Now, this is Casey County ASAP doing this. And then we ended up with the Youth Service Center director. And it was just success from the beginning because they're like, what do you need? What do you want to do? And I asked the principal the other day, why did you approve the idea of CYC in 2015? And he said, and I thought this was interesting coming from the principal, I wanted to know what was working and what needed fixed from a student perspective. So he was really into, you know, his school. He was a young guy, but he was very interested in what the students had to say. And he said, when students are involved directly in what is occurring, change is viewed from an entirely different lens by the rest of the school. Students feel appreciated and valued. And I knew that. I knew that youth had a larger voice than any adult could ever have. So, Nikki, you want to talk about the groundwork that we did?
Good morning. My name is Nikki Webbington. I'm the advisor for the KC Youth Coalition, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about engaging youth. Just so you know a little bit about my history, I've worked with youth throughout my career in a mental health setting, and started working with the KC Youth Coalition in 2015, in addition to what I was doing. So I've had a lot of time and experience to work with youth and to work with planning how to motivate them. And so I came into this process with one thing in mind, and that was the whole model of youth-led, adult-guided. And my experience had taught me that the most efficient way to motivate youth is with youth, and that sometimes we as adults have a tendency to want to take the easy road out, and that is to just do the things that we know how to do and to organize and to put things in order so that we can get to an end result quickly. And my experience had been, you need to let the youth figure those things out. You need to let them work through that, because other youth listen to that. And so it was a process, I think, not only for me, but the other partners that have worked with me through the coalition, to realize that we have to take the back seat and we have to let the youth lead what is going on. I know Miss Cathy would tell you, I don't know how many times she's heard me say, I'll put it on the agenda. And that was about any time that someone brought an ideal or a concept or something new that they wanted to know if the Youth Coalition would be a part of. I never made those decisions. I contacted our secretary. I said, here's a new topic someone wants us to discuss. Please put this on the agenda for our next club meeting. The kids would discuss those things. I would meet with whoever was the president at the time that was going to be talking to the youth, let them know what the question for that topic was, and then they decided whether or not they wanted to take that on. My role was to talk to them about what's that going to involve, using my experience of knowing time management, funding, those kinds of things. If you all take this on, this is what the commitment you're making. So my job was to teach them how to do those things, how to make those decisions, how to go through that process for them to lead. And I will say real quickly, for me, the three components to having a successful coalition is the youth-led and adult-guided. It is leadership skills and it's collaboration. So in looking at those things, I wanted to give students a voice. I wanted them to be heard. And lots of times students have these great ideas, but they don't want to be the one in the front always talking about those ideas. And this club gave them, this coalition gave them an opportunity to use that voice and to use it effectively, and to figure out how to get people to want to engage with you. It was not about us against them when it came to tobacco, as much as everyone working for the same end result. And I think that is, we all want to have healthy communities, healthy schools, and healthy lifestyles. And we have to figure out how to meet those needs, and allowing our youth to play a part in that, I think, is essential for our future being successful. And so we looked at doing things like setting up structure so that the kids learned how to use those leadership skills. We have officers that meet and run our club meetings every month. We have committees that meet, and someone takes a chair position in each one of the projects that they take on, and they lead those. Now, as the advisor, my job is to help them figure out, how do you lead, to educate them, to train them, but then to let them do those things. Does that always mean that they do things the way that I think would maybe get things done quickly, or would come out with the result that I think that they should have? It doesn't, and that's a good thing. I don't want it to always be about what I think, because again, then you get away from that youth model if it's about what I think that end result needs to be. They look at their data, they look at their statistics, and then they're able to see if what they did was successful or not. In looking at information skills, actions, training is key. We're asking students to take a very strong leadership role in the coalition, and they don't always have those skills. And so we bring in trainers that talk to them about the statistics and how to gather data and how to use it. We train them on that we're getting ready to start a new step in our STOP grant project, and it's going to be about a social norming campaign. So we're going to bring someone in that's going to train us on how to develop a social norm campaign. Then from that training, the kids will actually sit down and look at what their goal is based on their strategic plan that they want to meet for this year, and how do we implement that? How do we go about setting up the activities and the skills that are going to take us from point A to point B successfully? Training is key. You have to know what where your starting point is, to know if you're progressing, to get to those outcomes, to meet those goals. And so the more training that you give on those leadership skills and on the topics that they're going to be addressing, the more successful the youth are able to be. The more successful they're able to be, the more motivated they get to be involved in what it is that they're doing. So when we started this group, I came in about a year after the coalition had actually started, and we looked at branding. That was a big thing at the time, was figuring out, we want people to know who we are, and we want them to know when they see something that the CYC's been involved with and that stands for something. I know I talk to the kids a lot about, we don't take on more than we can accomplish. We want quality work. And so we looked at logos, we looked at a slogan, things that when people see that, they know who created that, and they know what that stands for, because they know what we have been putting out, the quality of work we've put out in the community. There's lots of times that we turn away really good projects or really good ideas because we have more going on than we can take on, than allows us to be able to take on something new. So it really is about prioritizing, and you're going to use that logic model and those strategic plans to help you stay focused on that. And that's the thing that comes back to my role as the adult guided, is when something comes up or someone gives us a suggestion at a training and everybody's interested in it, we have to look at, does that fit into that focus that we have for right now? It doesn't mean that we may not come back to that. If they're really interested in something, we may put that on a list to look at for our goals for another time, but we try to stay very focused on what we've set our agenda for each year. In the summer, we do a youth training that really helps us to develop that strategic plan for the next year. And that gives us an opportunity. It's usually about a week long. We've done it in various settings, but it really gives us an intense amount of time to sit down and talk through what we've accomplished in the past year, what worked and what didn't work, and where they want to go for the next year. What are the things that motivate them based on not only what they're seeing in their schools and their community, but looking back at our data that we've collected, whether it's using the KIPP school survey or whether that's using student surveys. We look back at that stuff to help guide us to where they want to go. The students are very active in the community, and we continue to try to put them in the forefront. They have 2 seats on our Casey County ASAP board, and they go each month to that board meeting. They are able to vote on that board meeting. They're able to come back with ideas. They share with that board what we've been doing and the activities that we've been involved in since we met last. We also seen from having them involved in that kind of setting, and where that allows them to be involved in the community, that starting at an earlier age was going to give them more experience to allow them to be prepared for that. And so we started our junior CYC to start at the middle school on the same types of topics that we're focusing on now, so that when children came to the high school, these youth were more prepared for the type of responsibility and the leadership that we're going to be asking of them. And it is asking a lot. The kids do 98% of the work. They sometimes, we were in a meeting once and they had an ideal of a way that they wanted to promote something online. And they were telling me about it and they were all excited. And when they got done telling me about it, I said, okay, guys, so who wants to take this on? And everybody just kind of stopped and looked at me for a minute, because these youth have a lot going on in their lives. And we had to take a step back and talk through the type of commitment that activity was going to take. And did any of them have the time to put into that? And at the time, they did not. And so we had to pass up that opportunity. But it allowed them to be able to see not only how that they need to manage their time, but how they have to pick and choose the things that they're going to do to get to their end result, to get the outcomes that they want. In doing that, you get into the adaptability factor. And I think it's important to realize that nothing should necessarily be set in stone. Our society, the world that we live in, is constantly changing. And I think it's important that our youth are able to, and they probably are better at it than we as adults are, at changing with that, with the times and how things are. Technology is changing. Coronavirus has changed the way we do things, and we have to meet those needs, and we have to take a step back sometimes and say, okay, normally we address an issue, we maybe create a PSA, and we go to our local radio station and we record those and we put that information out on our radio. Well, for the last 6 months, we've not been able to do that. So how do we still get our word out there and stay within the guidelines of safety? So I had kids recording on their phones and actually sending recordings into the radio station to be able to put them on there. And it's just about being constantly coming up with new ideas and new ways to meet the expectations and the successfulness of the message that we have for the platform that we're trying to get out there. And listening to your youth is the best way to get to those things, because they know what other youth are listening to. They know what they're looking at. They know what gets their attention. They know what doesn't get their attention. And once they get comfortable in using that voice and talking about how they feel and how they think about the things that they see, the stronger those voices get. I'll turn over to Cathy.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about sustainability and tobacco prevention. I know the youth have underage drinking projects, and they also have tobacco projects. Tobacco's been forefront since the very beginning because it was something they jumped on the bandwagon with. We train every year on tobacco issues. We also talk to the youth about, is there a group in the school that you want to provide training for? And last year we had UK ambassadors come and talk with the sports teams. When the youth suggested that we have all athletic, anybody involved, any youth involved in athletic events, they wanted them trained on tobacco issues. And the school system said, that is so good. So they set up a time with our athletic director, and he got everybody together, all the athletes, and every athlete in the school, if you played any kind of sport, was subject to being educated by the UK ambassadors, and that was awesome. And by the way, they don't charge a thing. So if you don't have a DFC grant, you can still provide that training. We train every year on the KIPP school survey results. That lets the kids know they're doing, they're either reaching their outcomes or they're not, but it also brings into focus new issues that they may have. Nikki, you want to talk about creating their own surveys?
Yes. Sometimes we will have topics come up that, a youth may say, well, this is a problem in our school, or this is a problem in our community. And so my role is to say, okay, how do you know it's a problem? And well, because we see it, or because we hear it, or whatever. We look through the data that we have, whether it's our KIPP school survey or another data form that we have. And if we don't have that data, we said, okay, so how do we get it? You all are telling me this is a problem. You all want to focus on this, but we have to know where we're starting from so that we know if we're making progress. And so the kids have worked on being able to create their own surveys when they have questions about, is this really a problem, or is it just something that's a problem maybe with my social group, or is it just a problem with the community that the local area that I'm living in currently. And so they have practiced over the last couple of years when they can't find the data that they need to support something that they want to go after, we create our own. And sometimes that data has shown us that yes, what they think is happening is definitely an issue. And sometimes the data has shown that it's not as much of an issue as they thought it was, which just allows us to step back and look at where do we need to be going? Because if you start working on a problem that's really only a problem for a small select number of people, it's harder to see those changes. Where if it's something that is localized and it's being seen throughout your school or your community and lots of people are experiencing it, it's easier to be able to see if the activities you're doing are making a change. When we do, yes.
Real quickly, just to interject something there, we contacted Campbellsville University and asked for someone to come over and talk to our youth about how to word their surveys. So that, and it didn't cost us anything. They said, yes, we'll be glad to do that. So that's where they got their training for creating their own surveys. Sorry about that, Nikki.
That's okay. And the surveys allow us to, we do pre and post tests. And so sometimes it's sort of the same concept. We will do a survey, maybe we will identify English classes, and all 9th graders in their English class for that day will take the survey. And we may do that at the beginning of the school year from an issue that we've identified during the summer at our training. And then that next fall, we may go back in, now they're going to be 10th graders, and we resurvey those same kids, seeing did they see a change? Have the activities that we done created change? And that allows us to see outcomes. But yes, Cathy was right. Having someone come in and help the kids with the wording for the surveys is really a good idea if you can do that. It's imperative that you use you ask the right kind of questions that get you the right kind of answers, because sometimes when you ask certain questions, when you're on the end of it and you're looking back, you're saying, oh, well, that left this as a variable that we didn't think about when we asked that question, which can sometimes skew what that end result is and how successful that you've been. We also spend a lot of time working on partnering with other coalitions and communities when possible, because that allows you again to be able to broaden that spectrum of resources that you have. You know, there may be someone in a county that's beside ours that has someone that can do a specific type of training that we don't have, and we may have something here or someone here that can offer the same thing. When you combine those coalitions to do joint trainings, that allows you to spread out that reach that you have to be able to pull in local and community resources, which just makes you a stronger coalition. Those coalitions getting together and being able to talk about what they're working on and what that they feel like needs to be addressed, I think also helps them in being able to do what they call for student buy-in to be such a key factor, that when they get together and they realize that they're not the only ones dealing with it, but other counties may be dealing with it, or maybe they're dealing with an issue that we're not. I think it allows them to just broaden their view of what's going on in the world, what's going on in their communities, what's going on next to them, what may be a problem coming into our area if we're not responsive to that and if we're not looking at that. Student buy-in comes from the kids' desire to want to make change, and it has to be theirs. I can't tell them what needs to change at their school. They have to want that change to happen for them to be passionate about it. And that's where you have to sit back and you have to listen to what they're telling you. And when they come up with things, you do these surveys to see if they're problems that they see are happening, but maybe we don't have data on. Student buy-in is all about it being youth-led. and not being adult-led and adults telling them what the problems are, what they need to address. Cathy, you want to talk a little bit about the logic model?
Yes, we'll show you their basic logic model, but the one thing that's important for that is that they have to update it yearly. They have to look at it. If we have new data, they change the data. And when you change the data, sometimes you have to change your activities. So they do a little bit of work on that. And it's basically, what's the problem? Why is it a problem? And why is it a problem here? They call it but why, but they love using the logic model. One thing we've learned is change takes time. And I think that is so interesting when you hear them realize there has been change, but it does take a while. And we tell them that you're not going to see an immediate change. You may, but if you don't, it's okay. Change takes time. I remember the first change they actually logged into their brains was when there was no more smoke in the bathrooms. And that took probably, maybe we started in 2015, and at the beginning of 2017, I remember the youth saying, Miss Cathy, there's no more smoke in the bathrooms. And we're like, wow. And it is, change takes time. But if you keep on keeping on, you know, you'll get there. They created annual sustainable tobacco projects like Kick Butts Week. We had Red Ribbon Week. We had, you know, Drunk Driving Month, 3D Month. And so they created Kick Butts Week. They do celebrate Kick Butts Day, but their annual tobacco project, which started in 2015 and is maintained today, that is their sustainable project. So they know every year they're going to have to look at tobacco data and start planning. They do letters to the editor. They do newspaper articles. They put banners up in the school, whatever the focus is for that year. They do radios and video PSAs during that time. They also did a Photovoice, an original Photovoice, and it's still in use. And these are some of the pictures from their first Photovoice project. And these were issues that they identified. They took about 250 pictures and went back and selected 5 or 6 pictures that they thought were important. Now that was the process, and you can see the different ones there. Smoking in the bathroom. I think each one of these now, remember, has a caption that goes with it that they created. And the process that they go through in doing this was like the commode with the cigarette in there. That was the bathrooms. And every morning, every afternoon, the bathrooms were cleaned. And by 10 o'clock each morning, there was just litter, tobacco litter all over the bathrooms. And they thought this was atrocious. And that's one of the pictures that they took. And it has a caption that they created. They always run this through administration at the school and let them look at it before they release it. Sometimes they have to go back and change their captions because the school doesn't really agree with some things. They'll give a little bit, but they won't give a whole lot. One thing that was interesting was the picture of the candy cigarettes in the coffee shop here locally. And they took that after walking around in the community. And it says tobacco usage is so normalized in this community that from a young age, it is culturally acceptable to use. Even our candy is making tobacco seem fun and desirable to kids. After they posted this the first time, that coffee shop removed all candy cigarettes from their shelves, which I thought was really good. Now, see, that's a change, and it was kind of an immediate change. They were not expecting that. So that was good progress and a good outcome. And by the way, if you want to email me, I'll be glad to send you any of our Photovoice projects. We'll be able to share that. the next thing that we want to talk about is just give you a brief look at what their logic model looks like. It's a work in progress. This one was updated. This was one of the early ones, and it was updated in 2017. I think the original one was in 2016. And you'll see the problem statement. Why is it a problem, and why is it a problem here? And also in red, you'll see the results of one of their CYC surveys they used in their logic model. They know they have to have data to back up anything, any problem that they say, any issue they say is a problem. So when they go looking for the data, if they can't find the data, or they can't find any results, then they'll take that out as an issue. But for them, they did find that this was an issue. Nikki, you want to say anything about this?
Just realize that the use of your logic model is really your guideline throughout the year. It's the tool that's going to allow you as a advisor to help your youth stay on track, which allows their work to be, I think, of better quality because they stay focused on what they set their goal for that year to be.
Okay. Other important things, yes, we have funding. I think the youth get about $3,000 in the ASAP budget each year, and that's for both youth coalitions, the junior CYC and the CYC. They apply for and monitor the budget for the YES grant. That is something the treasurer does. They keep up with the money they spend. That's part of the leadership piece. We have had grants from the Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Program. They have stop funding, and we have some funding in DFC, but mainly the DFC grant is for Casey County, Kentucky ASAP. And we use funding, we give the youth some funding from that, but most of it comes from ASAP and the YES grant. But most of the things that we did, if you back up and look at them, you don't have to have funding to implement them. The trainings, we used the RPC, Regional Prevention Center, we used Lake Cumberland District Health Department Health Educator. They created posters. They put together announcements, and they have them in the mornings at school. They have found videos that they felt like the whole student body needed to see. So the principal let us use homeroom time to show those videos to all students. They've written letters to the editor. They have a Facebook page. Those things don't cost anything to implement. Okay, let's hear from the youth just a little bit.
Hello. So my name's Sadie Edwards. I'm a junior here at Casey County, and I've been a member of CYC for, I think this is my 3rd year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the youth perspective, so how we see it. So the first thing I want to talk about are the committees. So we've touched on these a little bit, but the committees help a lot because the work is split up better. So Nikki will bring a activity or something that we're like going to be a part of and see if we're interested in it. So once we decide if we want to do that activity or not, we will sign up for the committees. So once we know we're interested and sign up for our committees, we will have a volunteer to be the committee chair, and they'll just kind of keep us on track and take care of keeping up with our data, that kind of thing, be our leader for the committee. So once all that's done, we will divide up our responsibilities. And this helps me a lot, I know, because I'm not the best at like designing something, or some people aren't as good at like writing an article. So whenever we are just dividing up our responsibilities, we'll kind of pick our strong suits. So I think I'm personally better at speaking, so something like this. But if you're better at technology or writing an article or designing a t-shirt or something, that's what you would sign up for. So we then schedule when we're going to do stuff, so when we're going to take care of this activity. And after we finish, we will bring it back to the coalition at our next meeting and just kind of fill in everyone else who might not have been in that committee, just to let everyone else know what's going on. So now Kyra is going to talk.
So my name is Cara Kane, and I've been a part of the Junior CYC for 3 years, and this is my first year on the CYC. And I'm just going to kind of touch on enjoying your work and like making the process fun. So as Sadie said, we obviously do our committees so that you're not really overwhelmed in what you are doing. And we just kind of, so like you partner up with people who like the same thing as you. So you're being creative, you're having fun, you have to enjoy the work that you're doing. See, like we're not like, oh my gosh, I have to go to CYC. We're like, yay, we get to go, we get to have all of our ideas, we get to have fun with our work. And now I'm going to talk about our annual Kick Butts Week. It's something that we have every year here. It's kind of a big deal. Just we kind of, how I explain it is we're student versus student. So it's where the educated students we teach the uneducated students, or the students who don't know about what's the right from the wrong with tobacco usage. And this isn't like the adults who are like, oh, you have to do this, oh, you have to do this. It's like we have voices for the students who don't want to speak up, who don't know about, oh, this is wrong, we shouldn't do this. We're educating those students. And Kick Butts Week is kind of like, we have a week full of activities and we dress up and it's just a lot of fun. So now Sadie will talk about Photovoice.
So to add on, before Photovoice, what Kyra said, like she said, she's a freshman, so she hasn't had or been a part of a Kick Butts Week here at the high school. But my freshman year, we didn't get to have it this year, this spring. So my freshman year, we had banners hung up all around the school, and they were actually our designs. So that was really cool to see, like our artwork put on the walls for everyone else to see. We also had, we all have a like graduating class remind text. So we had one of our counselors send out a text every other day that was just like a fact or statistic about using tobacco, so that everyone signed up for that would see those every day or every other day. I think that's about it on Kick Butts Week. So Photovoice. Photovoice, which we've already touched on a little bit, is simply just pictures that prove that this is a problem, and the captions are from us, so it's our words. So to find what pictures we need, our coalition looks at data and decides what pictures need to prove our points or prove our data, just to kind of give you a visual so you're not just reading numbers and it's a little more interesting. So Photovoice is really fun actually, because we get to kind of set up, either we see these pictures like in our community or in our schools, or we can set them up from scenes that we've seen before. So like I said, Photovoice is super fun. It's not something that you're like, oh, I need to go do this, I have to go do this. It's actually really interesting, and then you get to see your work, and they get presented all over our county and even other states. So with that, our Photovoice earlier this year, I think in February, we had 3 students go to Washington, D.C. to present our Photovoice. So they presented it there, and we've presented it in Frankfurt. We've had an article written about it in a national magazine, and then it's been presented to parents in the community, the Board of Education, and Casey County ASAP. So with all this presentation, we've gotten a lot of recognition. So we have gotten recognition for the Yes Coalition of the Year, Healthy Kentucky Policy Champion Award for our tobacco-free campus, Youth Group of the Year from the Kentucky Division of Behavioral Health for Substance Abuse Prevention, Youth Advocate of the Year from the Kentucky Center of Smoke-Free Policy for secondhand smoke education and smoke-free policy. So it's really cool to see how far we've kind of gone and how many people know about us. That's just really cool, I feel like. So Kyra is going to talk about videos.
So we have done a lot of videos in the past, and we had just finished one recently over the summer. In order to do a video, you have to have a strong platform. So you have to go into projects prepared. You have a variety of ideas. You have to have a strong platform, knowing what you're doing and being educated on that topic. Some videos that we have done is one that was mainly focused on harming your family members. So like secondhand smoke, or about how like your family members could get heart or lung disease from smoking. And then the most recent one we've done was if you've heard vape was wrong, or if you've heard vape was safe, you've heard wrong. And that was just kind of touching on like we know about vaping is safe, but not everybody knows that vaping is not safe. And then we've done another one, and it was about our tobacco-free campuses. So we kind of just touched on how, like, don't be dipping or vaping or smoking at any of our campuses or our sporting events or anything like that. So now, Nikki,
go ahead, Kyra.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think their videos are very interesting, and I'm going to play one, but they identified locations where the public was using tobacco on their campus. So each one of their scenes in their video is the location that they described. You want me to play that video, Kyra?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can bring it up. This one was so funny.
Welcome to Casey County, where our school campuses are 100% tobacco-free. So what is a tobacco-free campus? That means no dipping, no smoking, no vaping, no form of any tobacco on school property. It also means no dip tobacco at athletic events. Excuse me, sir, just because you're outside does not mean you're off our campus. Are you serious?
That means no tobacco of any kind, anywhere, or any kind.
When we say tobacco-free campus, we mean all campuses.
Please support your schools and students to be tobacco-free. Thank you for not using on our campus.
That was one of my favorites. I love that, and we got a lot of recognition for that one. Let me go ahead and show the one for this year.
If you've heard vaping is safe, you've heard wrong. Here's 6 reasons why. Vaping suppresses your immune system, making your body more vulnerable to illness. Vaping can seriously damage your lungs and the lungs of people around you. Nicotine is destructive to the body. It can cause an increase in blood pressure, heart rate, narrowing of the arteries, and hardening of the arterial walls, which in turn may lead to heart attack. E-cigarettes are prone to explosions. These explosions have caused serious burns. If a vape exploded in your mouth or hand, the damage could be catastrophic or even fatal. If you get caught on school grounds, there will be serious consequences. Vaping may cause various types of cancer. Know your worth. It's more than what tobacco companies believe it to be. We are the Casey Youth Coalition, and we care about you.
Cool. I love that new one. One comment I would make too is that sometimes I know it's going to cost X amount of dollars to make a video or play it at the theater. I don't ask how much it costs anymore. When we get started with these video projects, I call and say, we have this much money. It's for a youth coalition at school. It's prevention. Could you do a video for this price? So, you know, sometimes we don't have all the money we want, but we can get some things done for lesser. Nikki, do you want to say anything about marketing the project?
Yeah, just a last word. I know we're getting towards the end. Marketing is key to your coalition. It is letting people know who you are and giving these kids a voice. Their voice gets tagged to that logo. And so most of the things that you will see, we try to, anything that we do, you can see on the picture, you can see our billboard that we've got up there. We have our logo. We have window screens in the front of our high school building, even inside the school, we have our logo on those. Our website has our logo. When we do videos, at the end, you've seen our logo come up. We tag that logo onto everything that we do so that anytime, anywhere someone sees that, they know who that came from. So just be aware that that is an important piece to your coalition.
Are we successful? Yes, we've been going strong. We're in our 6th year. We've lowered tobacco use, 30-day tobacco use, student tobacco use, excuse me. Even though we had vape came into play in 2016, we're excited to see our 2020 KIT school survey to see what's going on there. And I love this statement. Our superintendent said this year, when we were trying to figure out how to virtually do club meetings, because we wanted, you know, that consistency. And if we went back to school, you know, where were they going to put the club day? And our superintendent said, Cathy, listen, CYC is more than a club. It's part of the school. For me, those statements help me know that we have arrived and we are a sustainable piece to Casey County Schools. This, again, is our contact information. There's my email. There's Nikki's email. If you want us to share anything we have, I will be glad to share. Like I said, there's the YouTube video address, but you can just do a search on YouTube for Casey Youth Coalition. And the name of the video is Continued Tobacco Use on Our 100% Tobacco-Free Campus, and it is a really good teaching video. Nikki, talk about this last screen.
Oh, that's us. That's the final use. Okay, some thoughts from some quotes, I guess, that you could say from some of the members of CYC that have like graduated last year or even a few years ago. And one of our members had messaged all the members and asked, like, what were your thoughts from CYC? How did it impact you? And one of the girls, Gracie Johnson, she said, I can say with complete confidence that I know my high school experience wouldn't have been as nearly as enriched, interesting, or busy in the best way possible had I not been in the Casey Youth Coalition. I was able to travel to Orlando, Florida, as well as Washington, D.C., where I was able to meet and make hundreds of friends.
So the next one is from T. Harn, and he says, I would say that my favorite part of CYC was seeing the difference that a group of teenagers can make not only in our community, but also the nation. We were able to make a bigger impact than we ever dreamed of, just by putting efforts into a goal we cared about. It taught me so much about constantly striving for a goal, and when you do that, the rewards are greater than you could ever imagine.
Another one from one of our seniors from last year, she said, I was a part of CYC because of how it directly affected my life and the opportunities that came along. Personally, my favorite memory from my time in the CYC was when we got to travel to Tennessee to present a conference to other youth. It made me realize how big of an impact we actually were making, and I felt proud to be able to stand in front of the room.
And the last one is from Dakota Hoskins, and he says, a short time after CYC was established, I watched my grandfather die of COPD as a result of damaged lungs. After that, I knew I wanted to be a part of the prevention process. My favorite part of CYC was being able to change the lives of youth suffering from addictions in hope that one day they might not suffer from a drug-related illness.
And actually, they used these statements for recruitment purposes this year when students logged on virtually to do their work. These were put up on the screen. And so all students saw that with basically, if you're interested in getting or being a part of KCU's coalition, here's what you need to do. So I thought that was very creative with this script. And by the way, on any of the videos, they write all the script. We do not. They write it. And that concludes our presentation.
Great, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you have shared. I am going to become the presenter again. Maybe. All right, so we are getting some great comments in the question box. Thank you all so much. Please feel free to go ahead and keep submitting questions and comments. We have also put in the chat box the evaluation link. So that is tinyurl.com/eval-TCC, like Tobacco Control Conference 2020. So let us know how you felt about this personally, I think, wonderful presentation. It might be a little bit biased. And I'll start talking through some of these comments that we're getting. Said people love the videos in particular, they're telling us. So they're really proud of the kids, and I'm sure you two both are as well. It sounds like they're doing really, really great work. Sadie and Kyra, just so impressive. Such good speakers, and you all are really lucky to have them engaged in your coalition and in your community. We have had a request to see the It's Not the Smoker, It's the Smoke billboard. So Cathy, you said that you'd be willing to share some more pictures. If you send those to me, I can send them out to everyone who is here today. I know that there are also some great pictures on your all's Facebook page. Yeah. And so Gary Hall has said that his experience with youth coalition groups is that a lot of time, and this has been my experience as well in Mason County, my hometown, youth are often better able to persuade local officials because they're not seen as paid staff. Sometimes they don't want to listen to health department employees or ASAP employees because they think, well, you're just doing this because it's your job. But when they hear from students, they know that this is a genuine concern and care in the community. So his question is, how do you provide special recognition for the students' efforts?
Nikki,
sorry, we had lost audio. I missed most of that. Cathy, if you were able to hear her, if you want to respond to that, that will be fine.
No, I lost audio too. I don't know what happened there. Special recognition to the students.
I wonder if everyone did. It might.
Okay.
I was going to say it might have been my internet connection. I apologize. But the question was, how do you provide special recognition to the students? Do you have an award ceremony or banquet or newspaper ads? What are some of the things you do?
Well, we do. Go ahead, Nikki.
We do different things. At the end of each year, we usually do something special during our last club meeting. We go ahead and take care of electing officers and the things that need to happen for the next year in the meeting prior to that. And then that last year, we've had catered meals brought in where we all got to sit down and eat together. We do, and this may seem like a little different from what you're asking, but for me, this is recognition. We have done things like kept up with the amount of volunteer hours, and students that have volunteered the most amount of hours sometimes become eligible for certain activities that we get to do. And that's recognition for how hard that they have worked and the amount of time that they've put into what we've been doing. At each year with our graduates, they put an article in the paper with their pictures, recognizing them. Our ASAP board does that. We also usually take all of our seniors each year and we take them out to do something special with them, and that has varied what we've done with them just to give them special recognition. And I also follow up with them even after they graduate and they leave. I usually contact them as a group, those seniors, as they leave us, wishing them well into their college or their job or whatever that they're doing in their future at that point. And just like where they went back to some of our alumni and asked for these quotes, I think that the connection that they make with CYC is life lasting.
One thing that I do as far as recognition for the youth is anything they do, Nikki sends to me. And if the youth write a newspaper article, their picture goes in with it. If they create a newspaper ad, the ones responsible for creating the ad, their picture is in the ad. If they do a video, we put it on Facebook. If they write an article, it also goes on Facebook. Their pictures are there. We have permission from the school to use their photos and from parents. So they are put out there everywhere, and I want to make sure they know when they're in the public eye. One of the students said, I think in the second year of CYC, she says, Miss Cathy, we're everywhere. And I said, really, where are you at? And they talked about their logo on the billboard. They created retractable banners for the community about, you know, keeping their campus tobacco free. They had their picture on the retractable banners and they swapped them out at businesses all over the community. They would be in doctor's offices, they would be in the pharmacy, they would be, you know, at the grocery store. So we call that marketing, but we also put the youth out there and they get to see themselves. We also, anything the youth do, it goes on the Board of Education and the school's website page, and then it also, I will email it to, like if it's the high school CYC, I email a video or any kind of articles and everything to all the teachers so that they can see what the youth are doing, and their photos are there with it, so the kids get kudos from the teachers when they see it too. So that's a lot of the ways that we put the kids out there. I mean, it's an everyday, I'm putting something out there about the youth.
Great, thank you so much. So it's really a constant throughout the year as they're doing wonderful things, making sure the community knows and the school knows. Great, thank you. We don't have any more questions in the chat right now. If anyone has something that they would like to ask, feel free to email it to me at ellen.h.cartmell@ky.gov, and I would be happy to connect you with Cathy and Nikki and the students to get an answer to your question. We love having this model for how to really empower Youth Coalition. So thank you so much for your time today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
So our next, it's a pleasure. So our next webinar will be on December 1st with Truth Initiative. She'll be talking about target marketing, how big tobacco targets youth, and what we can do about it. So some of you all may remember that this webinar was actually scheduled originally for August, but we have moved it to December, and that will be the last in this particular series from the Tobacco Control Conference that would have been in person in the spring. However, we do have another additional event that will be happening in November, Tuesday, November 10th at 10 a.m. We hope you will join the Kentucky Center for Smoke-Free Policy for their annual award ceremony, which will be virtual this year. If you have any questions about that, please email Amanda Bucher, which is amanda.bucher@uky.edu. This should be a really great event. We have some exciting speakers. We'll be giving out awards to youth coalitions, advocates, people from all around the state who are really working on making the entire Commonwealth and pockets of it smoke-free and tobacco-free. So I hope you all will join us for that. The last thing I'll say is that if you wanted to receive certified health education specialist credits for attending today's webinar, you will need to fill out a separate evaluation from the one that you filled out earlier. The earlier evaluation we posted was just for the Kentucky Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Program and the Kentucky Center for Smoke-Free Policy, so that we can make sure we're providing you with the best webinars that we can. This webinar, this evaluation link that you see on your screen right now is only for certified health education specialists, and it's to help them get the continuing education credits they need. There is a deadline for that, which is Tuesday, October 20th. I will also be sending out this link to everybody who registered for today's webinar. So you should get this in your email. If you are not a certified health education specialist, you don't need to worry about this. But if you are, please don't miss this opportunity to get credits. So we are still getting results from the first evaluation that I mentioned, and that is the evaluation where we will be choosing winners to receive a copy of the cigarette, the book. And we will be actually just emailing everyone who received a copy of that. So thank you for those of you who held on, but we're going to keep allowing those evaluations to roll in, and we will choose the winners later today and email you all if you want a copy. If you have any questions about either of the evaluations or anything that's happened today that we haven't been able to cover, my email address is at the bottom of this slide. Again, ellen.h.cartmell@ky.gov. I'm going to say one more time, thank you so much to Cathy, Nikki, Sadie, Kyra. We really appreciate your time today and your willingness to share all of the successes that you have had building up the KC Youth Coalition and sustaining engagement from those wonderful students who we heard from today. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your week.